I'm Renee Rochelle, the founder and president of One True Match. I'm here to help you find and cultivate the love of your life. For over a decade, I've dedicated my life to the importance, purpose, and dynamic of human relationships. My team and I are disciplined by faith, love, and integrity to help our clients find the quality relationship they've always dreamt of. Each week, I will be sharing the tools and tips I've learned that have rooted my success as a matchmaker with other leaders around the world. Hello, loves. Welcome back. I am beyond thrilled to be sitting here with not only my dear friend, but also colleague in the industry of life coaching and helping people figure out who they are. And I wanted to bring her on. We've done an episode a while back, but before we had video, it's been a minute, right?
It's been a minute.
To talk about how to gain clarity in such like a complicated world when it comes to relationships. So we're going to walk away with giving good direction of how to really figure out, who you are and what you're looking for when it comes to clarity in a relationship, because I'm faced with this all day long in the matchmaking world with our clients and just matches of trying to figure out why they haven't met that person yet. So today I wanted to bring Michelle on because she does such a great job with our clients and just even working with matches to really point out the fine-tuned details to help give somebody a visual clarity of their direction. So I'm sitting here with the Michelle Dawnn. Say hello to everybody.
Hello.
I'm so glad you're
Thanks
here.
for having me. Thank you.
Welcome. So the first question that I really want to ask you is when you begin with a client and you kind of just give them instructions of how to get started and how to, put what they do on paper to fine tune, obviously, their direction. What are some of the things that you're thinking or looking at when you begin the session that you have with your client?
For the collage portion?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of it. There really is none of that. That's where you get them out of their head. And so they don't have to think about those things, because typically somebody, especially looking for love, is overthinking the process and then maybe not telling you the full disclosure of what's really going on with them. So the beauty of the exercise is for them to get out of their head, especially if they're very structured, and just do an organic project in the afternoon, or maybe it's the morning, but just do an organic project visually, because that way they can, do something fun that is enjoyable, but then later when we do the reading, actually see where they're at, because they're the ones that put that information on the board. So that combination of words and pictures tells the story of where they are, and then the changes they need to make, and then where they're going, and then steps they need to get there.
Right. Which I can't tell you how many times Michelle being able to sit with a client or a match and really, like I keep saying, fine tuning what it is in their mind, but being able to visually see it and explain it. And so tell me really just about how you have this, I say, gift from God and this talent, this intuitive nature to be able to really pull out the things that sometimes people have like stuffed in the deepest, darkest area in their psyche, that they don't even know that you're able to pull out.
Right. That's what, again, why people start there with me. They have to do a clarity collage before we do any coaching, because kind of the same thing was happening with me. People would come to coach and they don't know what they want to coach about.
Right.
Maybe we talk about our relationship or my job or whatever the case may be, but that's really not what's going on, because who really wants to get that vulnerable with somebody they don't really know and tell all their deepest darkest secrets, or what, how they're feeling. So with the collage, all that comes up organically. And they think they're just cutting out things and putting cute pictures on a board, like a traditional vision board of like wants. And this is actually telling the story. So they can give me a little bit of insight in the beginning when I meet them, but I have an empathic nature. So the more I'm around them, if the project takes 3 to 4 hours and I'm sitting with them and chatting with them, they might not be telling me everything, but when it comes to the reading, that tells the story. And they'll say, well, I didn't even tell you that. And I'm like, right. So that's where then the trust is built. And then that's where we can go on to coach around those things that they need help with.
Right. Which I love that you also, set it up to really do on an annual basis, because I always tell everybody we're forever growing. And if we're not, then we're just stagnant.
Correct.
right? And who wants to
Correct.
just be stagnant or complacent in life? You want to be
Right.
thriving, you want to be growing. There's
Yes.
so much God has designed you to
Yes.
discover. And so, what I love about the clarity collage is it's really just, like you said, the stepping stones to then create that direction we're talking about in all things. And it's not
Totally.
just a romantic relationship, a lot of things come up on people's career, they come up on
Correct.
like their purpose, their direction of things that they want to do, their relationships with their
Yes.
family,
Yes.
and obviously their relationship and the romantic side of it typically comes up.
It always comes up.
And when it doesn't, then I also question whether or not they're truly ready for a
Totally.
relationship, or
Totally.
maybe their focus is too spread thin on too many
Yeah.
things. So when
Yeah.
we talk about having direction and clarity, I think
Right.
that's one of the biggest reasons why people struggle with not only finding their right love, but
Right.
also really having that clear picture, like
Yes.
this crystal clear picture. Of course, God has all the plans,
All the plans.
but you're doing the activity not just by yourself or in a room if
Correct.
there's other people there, or with you, but you're doing it with God. And what
Definitely.
I love is a spiritual impact that really
Yeah.
comes through that vision,
Yeah.
that collage, right?
Yeah.
And kind of the walk away that you have from doing that, exercise where you're like, wow, now I have kind of the next year goals
They have like a
to achieve
roadmap.
a roadmap. Right.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
Yeah, because we're
Exactly.
not here to be mediocre,
Right.
obviously. So that perpetual growth every year really helps catapult them to, stay accountable for the things that they do want to get done. But some people aren't necessarily in a season of love. There might be more healing or work to do before they're
Mhm.
actually ready for you to find them a match.
Right. Right.
So it's good for them to do that. So then I can pass them back off to you and say, hey, here's what's going on, so that it makes your job a little easier in finding their one true match.
It does.
So,
I mean, I
yeah,
can't tell you how many clients we say, and from the beginning, especially the ones that just say they want to get that extra guidance because they
right,
don't want to repeat their past.
correct,
So many clients that have come from us, either they haven't dated or come to us, they either haven't dated, so they don't have any dating experience, or
right,
they've dated too much, or they've been married a couple of
right. Have a
times.
little
So
baggage,
I
yeah,
always say, like, to have a different result, go through a different door, try something different
definitely.
to really understand what the things are that make you like do this or do that, or why you
Yes,
respond, or why maybe you're not good at conflict resolution,
yes,
why maybe communication, and all of that starts to come up, which is so cool on this
it is.
collage. And it's in a way that is deeper understanding, kind of like I say when you take a personality test or a love
Yeah,
language. The more that you can learn about yourself,
the
the more
better,
that you can communicate to others and be
definitely.
more understanding how different we are. I think
Yes,
so many times we just go around floating through life. We are who we are, right? God designed
yeah,
us this way. We've been doing life this way, but we never really think about how do we now use those talents? How do we know our strengths? How do we know our weaknesses?
yeah,
And, and excel in the areas where we have weaknesses so that we can be better in all areas of
exactly.
conversation, communication, and goals. So the one thing I also always tell everybody, this is not a dream board. I loved it one
Thank
time.
you.
You told me, okay, so Renee, are you planning on getting a plane this year? Like, why is that going on the board, right? And I was like, no, I'm not planning on getting a plane. I just I'd love to learn how to fly someday. But I love it that you also say this is not a dream board.
Right,
This is like an
right.
accountability roadmap, kind
Yes,
of, right? And
yes.
to not put it all on the board because we can't do it all.
Can't do
But
it
to
all.
hold yourself accountable on
Right,
a yearly basis, I think is
right.
way much more obtainable,
Yes,
because I think too many times people call this like a dream board. They do it and they're like, well, it was great in the moment. They totally put it aside. They never see it. They never look at it again. And then they're lost. And
well,
it
they
really didn't
look
have
at
its
it like a
effect.
success or a failure, which is
Right.
not the point. So, right.
Right. So what are some advices that you give around that? Obviously, do it yearly. But
Yes, yes. Do it yearly for sure, because that's the difference between a traditional vision board is that people just think it's success or fail. They'll go back and look at it and say, well, none of these things happened. None of this happened for me, so never doing this again.
right.
Or, I've done that before, so I've already gotten all those things, so what more do I need to do? They can't see past like the current moment to do the dream and everything. We're still going to naturally dream, but it's not always about manifesting something. It's about being in alignment with your purpose
Mhm.
and the season that you're in, to do the work to keep learning and growing so you can get to the next level. And that's the main source of the project of what I try to teach them.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So that you kind of grow with it as you go, obviously,
Correct,
too.
because it ends up telling us stories. So clients that have worked with me for a decade, then they're able to, have that see that perpetual growth if they laid them all out. But a lot of them will bring the previous one to a session and then we compare them and they can see it for themselves. And they're like, wow, look where I was and now look where I am. And so that gives them extra confidence and makes them feel worthy and valued and lets them know they're right where they need to be to do the, other goals. So
Sure,
yeah.
sure. And I think too, so many times when and we talk about this all day long, like what do you say on a first date, or what do you
Right.
say after so many years of marriage?
Right.
How do you keep the spice alive? How do you keep things like exciting, unique, and
Yeah.
different, right? So a lot of that has to come up with like topics, right, to
Yeah.
talk about, right, that aren't
Yeah.
just the ordinary same old boring things. And what I really enjoy about this when we have our clients do this exercise and they go through my Love Stars review
Yeah.
course, and part of it is obviously doing
Yeah.
the clarity board, and is where they then get in practice of sharing what you've told them, which is always a moment to me because I usually have your notes and then I also hear them explain it.
Right.
But it's also like putting on, you start riding a bike with training wheels and then
Yeah.
you eventually take them off. And if you
Right.
don't keep practicing, you'll forget how to ride a
Totally.
bike. Like I haven't ridden a bike in years. Now I have a 5-year-old and I'm now trying to relearn how to pedal, right? But it's like
Yes.
those things you have to keep yourself in rhythm to keep
Totally.
the wheels moving.
Yeah.
And so what's really cool about that is from what you tell them, from their process, their reflection and their thinking
Yeah.
through, they're able to now describe to them when somebody asks them a little bit more what's happening in their life than something so either closed off or something that's so awful from their past that it comes across as a negative.
Right.
And part of starting a relationship and being successful in a relationship, even you've been in forever, is also your attitude,
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
positivity. And so,
Yeah.
what are you doing to live out, also seek, and then like manifest, as you're saying, basically, right out there to your surrounding of individuals? And truly, it goes back to like having that clarity on that collage that is no
Yes.
negative person tearing you down saying you can't do this, you can't do that. But I love that you also say put it up in a place where you can see it on a regular
Yes.
basis, right? So
Yes.
you're reminded of like this is a small but also big portion
Yeah.
of who God has designed me to be, who I want to thrive as goals to set, and then see what happens in
Yeah.
your life.
Exactly.
Because I think I always say, without that step that Michelle really does, with all the other things that we teach, it's like you're people are lost when it comes to the clarity of their own
They
direction,
are.
right?
They
And how do
are.
you give somebody direction when you don't even know your own direction?
Right. Well, and that's the thing. And when I say in alignment, your actions, words, and thoughts have to be in full alignment for not only for you to be in alignment with your purpose, but also be in integrity, right? And so you're the only one that knows what you're thinking. But your thought, your words, and your actions should match. So when you have a collage in front of you, you should easily be able to see that. And you should easily be able to see maybe where you're out of alignment.
Right.
So if you can rein all that back in and then do the steps and do the work to get where you need to be, things happen effortlessly.
It does. Even when you're starting like a business or something. I remember
Right.
there was one time there was something we were trying to add to the company, and one of my boards was just like, "Well, that's not going to happen unless this part that
Yeah.
you are also desiring is balanced." And it was so
So,
obvious why things weren't moving in the direction of
right.
what I wanted,
Yeah.
because my board spelled it all out for me, and you just like
It's
clarified
amazing.
it.
Yeah, it's literally like a roadmap, like I said, and it's up to you. I always say it's like the candy land of life, right? You have all the little steps and all the little colors, and it tells you what to do, and it's yours. So people will say, "Well, how did you know that?" Or I was thinking that, right? Because your soul put it there.
Right.
So that's the beauty, because then you have this sense of almost like pride that you created this roadmap for yourself and you have a reminder and you know what you need to do and you can hold your own self accountable. It's great to have a coach or a mentor to help guide you through that through relationship and whatever else, but it starts with you.
It does.
Right? I
It
mean,
does.
that's
Well, I mean, that's why
that's your whole program.
our whole course is called Love Starts With You. I say
Right.
with God, right?
Yeah,
And the more time, and it
exactly.
seems like I know I told everybody, it seems like a elementary in some regards
Yeah.
activity, but it honestly so many times, especially as a business owner, you sit down, you kind of write out a plan, you write out, and then if you have a partner, great, you talk to them about it. If you don't, then it's just you, the note paper, and the piece of the pencil, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, what am I doing? And so what I always say, what's great about this is you have no clue what's
None.
going on. You're
None.
unbiased.
Yeah.
You do this activity, you're
Right.
able to like spell it out visually.
Yes.
And then not only do you have like the numbers and everything written on your yellow pad or white pad or whatever you have, you also have the visual.
Yes.
In the
To match
time that
it.
I don't even think people understand that they're doing is they're also like during that time, like kind of spending more time with their inner soul that God's beautifully designed them to have. So not only, I mean, I can't rave enough about this. Of course, is why I wanted to bring you on because our clients and matches have had so much tremendous success going forward because
Yeah.
then we're able to teach them the things that they've learned from it and then the techniques, how to have
Totally.
great communication skills in the direction of the relationship goals they really, really thrive to have, which
Yeah.
is an equal, compatible partnership that like grows together because you're able to communicate.
Right.
And I
That's a good point. I think that it opens up them to see a new perspective because sometimes they're very lineal. It's like, this is what I want. I want to get there. Help me get there, Renee.
right,
And you're like, okay, I'm not a magician. But what the project does is help them see, well, maybe that's actually not what I'm looking for. Maybe I'm
right,
actually, and it makes them take a step back and look at themselves, which we do, but it's
right.
such a beautiful exercise
Because you did it.
because you did it. And then you're like, okay, well, wait a minute. She didn't tell me to put all these things here. So then when they have time for reflection, it's important that I give them a reading to guide them and show them where they're at. But it's also important, and I tell them to do this, take some time for reflection and journal about what they see and how they feel about things and what changed for them. How has their perception changed since doing the board? And all those are things that they can take back to you, and then maybe that shifts. Maybe the people they were looking for, then those three get crossed off and three new ones get added on, right?
Right.
Because we think we know what we want, but that might not be what's best for our soul and what God has for us. And so I think it's a beautiful union to be able to do that and then give them back to you and say, okay, you're magic. Because
Right.
then you have a different conversation with them, I feel like.
Well, and us is, for a living interviewing people, like the hardest challenge for us is, everybody will say, well, how long will it take to find my true love? And I'm
Right.
like, well, that's
Right.
really up to you and God, right? Our job is to obviously bring the most amazing, compatible, like
Right.
candidates for
Right.
our clients that are out there. But I always say the more time that we get to unfold who our client is, we're that much more successful when we're
Yes.
interviewing.
Yeah.
So if you're somebody that's really closed minded, or you're somebody that says, well, my life isn't really that interesting, or I don't really know how to say, or you get into these same conversations and they feel
Yeah.
mundane, do one of these clarity like collages because it's like the first stepping stone to another way of having something to talk about
Right.
that's like inspiring and exciting. And then
Right.
also admitting to some of the things that you've just done, basically, you're admitting out loud to be able when somebody
Right.
asks you what are some of your strengths and weaknesses, it's amazing on a job interview. You're like, well, you throw out a weakness that's actually like a good thing to the employer,
Exactly.
right? When it comes to like matching with somebody and talking to them, you're not going to share all of the worst things ever you've
Totally.
done. You're better off sharing the things that you've learned
Yeah.
so that it's that much more like received when you're in the right relationship. And I think
Definitely.
that's why a lot of relationships either fail because they don't know who they are. They
Right.
haven't gone through something of this to self discover.
Yeah.
And then how do they articulate it like you do in a way that they can actually describe that?
Yeah.
And that is so, I mean, there is nothing more, I feel like, attractive to anybody when they're educating them on some type of thing that
Yeah.
they've never learned, or when somebody starts to fall in love with you, right? Or you're with somebody. I always loved going home and like sharing what I learned on the board to my family, to
Yeah.
my friends, right? Because then
Yeah.
it's like, it just makes that much more sense instead of me just talking about these ideas, but also
Exactly.
putting it out there to show them. So
Exactly.
I just love what you do, and I feel like the
Thank
whole
you.
world should start with you. Not only through their own self guidance of their relationship with God, to really
Right.
talk to Him about the direction, the plan that He has for them, but
Right.
also to do something like this clarity collage as the next step to then
Yes.
come to us to be able to have these conversations to get them in that journey whether you're a client or you're a match,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, our clients want to meet the ones that have already done these steps to be that much more ready and prepared so that when we do that introduction, it's taking flight that much quicker
Totally.
because two people truly know who they are, where they're headed, and they have direction for us to do our
Right.
job much easier.
And doing it from a positive mindset, making, I'm kind of guiding and supervising that they put positive pictures and positive words, like not stress free and all these crazy things that society teaches us that are positive. So,
Right.
I'm kind of watching over them, making sure they're not putting that. So then when they're looking at that and focusing on that and knowing the changes they need to make, it's coming from a good place.
Right. Which
Yeah.
is, I mean, with the world being as dark and scary and just
Right?
traumatizing as it is, we need more of that for
We do.
sure. All of
Yes.
us do to
We
keep
all need
sane and
it.
to keep in the right path and know great things are ahead. So
Totally.
I so love and appreciate
Thank
you
you.
coming on
Of
to speak this
course.
message to everybody. And
Of
if you
course.
are off this season, obviously, for Easter and you're looking for something to do for yourself or gift it to
Yes.
somebody else, there's actually a couple right now that I want to send you to that they're
Okay.
happily matched, but they're like now going through the next steps of where they're going to
I
go in the
love that.
relationship. And then you
I
start talking
love
about
it.
finances. They need to talk about who's going to move who where and all of my
Yes.
long
Ooh,
distance
exciting.
relationships. That's when it's like, do one of these,
Yes.
talk it through, have these big topic conversations. And if you're single and just alone and you're trying to
Right.
figure this out, there is nothing better than doing this.
I
So,
agree.
all of Michelle's contact information will be in our show notes. And if you have any other additional questions, please write in. We love hearing from you. We love the topics of conversations we can discuss where any of these details are going to be helpful for any areas of your relationship. So, we're going to love and leave you and hope you have the dearest and best
Yes.
Easter, remembering all that Jesus did for us. It's been another great talk on this episode of One True Talks by Renee Rochelle. I look forward to our next chat. Please write in your questions and comments so I can be sure to talk about whatever it is you want to discuss in our next upcoming episode. Lots of love. God bless. XOXO.